You've seen this image, right? It's probably one of the most famous pictures in all of science. But here's the thing, it's also one of the most wrong. It's an idea that's so powerful, it's completely shaped how we think about where we come from. And, well, it's a total myth. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's break down this picture and the huge question that always comes up with it. I'm guessing you've heard it before. Heck, maybe you've even wondered about it yourself. I mean, you know this one. We've all seen it a million times, and it tells this really simple, really appealing story, doesn't it? That evolution is this straight line, a steady march from some primitive ape thing to, well, to us, the perfected final product, the grand finale. And that leads to this question. It gets asked constantly, and honestly, it gets right to the heart of the whole misunderstanding. That famous image makes you think that, apes are just an earlier model of us, a stepping stone that should have disappeared once we arrived on the scene. But nope, that is not how evolution works. Not at all. All right, so let's switch gears and talk about what's really going on, which, believe me, is way more interesting than the myth. If you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this: evolution has no goal. I mean it. There's no blueprint, no grand plan, no finish line that it's all racing towards. Biologists actually have a name for this old-school, goal-driven idea, and yeah, it's been tossed out for a long time. It's called orthogenesis. Kind of means straight origins. And it's this old hypothesis that there's some kind of internal force pushing evolution in a straight line, towards some specific goal, like a train locked on a track. But all the evidence we have from fossils, from genetics, it tells us something completely different. The path is anything but a straight line. And what's crazy is how long this idea has been kicking around. It feels intuitive, right? But it's just wrong. You can trace it all the way back to ancient Greece, to Aristotle's Scala Naturae, his great chain of being. Basically, a ladder of life with lower, simpler stuff at the bottom and higher, more complex beings, guess who, at the top. This idea was so deeply baked into Western thinking that it took until like the 1940s for science to really fully replace it. And this right here is the key. This is the big mental shift we all need to make. We've got to completely throw out the idea of a ladder and replace it with a huge, messy, sprawling tree. In the tree view, apes aren't a lower rung we climbed past. No way. They're our cousins. They're alive today on their own branch, which split off from our shared ancestor millions of years ago. Okay, so if there's no goal, no plan, then how in the world do you end up with all the incredible, complex stuff we see in nature, right? I mean, how does the process with zero direction build something as ridiculously intricate as, say, a human eye? Well, the secret is in this really powerful two-step process. And the biologist Richard Dawkins came up with the absolute perfect metaphor for it. He called it the blind watchmaker. Think about that. It's a watchmaker because it can produce these amazingly complex things that look like they were designed, but it's blind because it has absolutely no plan, no foresight, no intention at all. So here's how it works. Step 1 is random variation. This is just mutations, little copying errors in genes. Totally random, could be good, could be bad, could be neutral. But step 2, this is the important part. Step 2 is non-random selection. This is where the environment acts like a filter. It brutally tests every new trait, and only the ones that happen to give an edge for survival and reproduction right here, right now, those are the ones that get passed on. It's the complete opposite of random. So does that mean everything always gets more complex? Nope, absolutely not. The only thing evolution cares about is what works, what helps you survive. And sometimes, believe it or not, the best strategy is to actually get simpler. Here, check out this classic example. So imagine you're a fish living in a cave in total pitch black darkness. Eyes are completely useless, right? Worse than useless, actually. They take a ton of energy to grow and maintain, and they can get injured and infected. So, over thousands of generations, any random mutation that led to smaller eyes or no eyes at all was actually a good thing. It saved energy. Those fish aren't going backwards. They're perfectly evolved for their specific environment. Okay, now we're going to get into something even more subtle. And honestly, this is one of my favorite ideas in biology. What if some feature that looks like a super clever, purposeful design was actually just a complete accident? This leads us to a really cool concept called an evolutionary spandrel. Now, the word itself actually comes from architecture of all places, but what it means in biology is just fascinating. So, what is misandrol? It's basically a byproduct, a side effect. It's some trait that evolution didn't select for directly. It just kind of came along for the ride because it was attached to another trait that was being selected for.
Here's a quick example from biochemistry to make it clearer. Let's say natural selection is favoring mutations that make a certain protein more stable and sturdy. Okay, pretty simple. But as the protein changes its shape to become more stable, that new shape, just by pure dumb luck, happens to be perfect for grabbing onto some other molecule. All of a sudden, this organism has a brand new ability. Not because it was designed that way, but as a total accident, a byproduct of just being more stable.
Okay, so if the science is crystal clear, evolution is a branching tree, not a straight line. Why is that march of progress idea so dang sticky? Why can't we seem to get rid of it? Well, it's kind of like a triple threat. First, there's our own psychology. Our brains are just wired to see purpose and goals everywhere. It's a bias called teleology. Second, you've got deep cultural history. That whole great chain of being thing we talked about, it's been part of Western thought for centuries. And third, you have that image itself. It's such a powerful, simple meme. It tells a story that just feels right, even if the science says it's totally wrong. And look, this is not just some nerdy academic argument. This stuff has real-world consequences. When we get stuck in this human-centered or anthropocentric view, when we see every other species as just a lesser version of ourselves or a stepping stone on the path to humanity, it becomes way, way too easy to just disregard the natural world, and frankly, to destroy it. So let's wrap this up by maybe recalibrating our whole perspective. Let's try seeing ourselves not as the pinnacle, not as the top of the ladder, but as just one small part of a much, much bigger story. Think about it this way. Every single other species alive on the planet today, from a fungus to a frog to a fly, is our contemporary cousin. They are not our ancestors. They are not less evolved. They are the successful surviving tips of their very own evolutionary branches, just like we are of ours. And what a journey it's been. 4 billion years. Every living thing on Earth right now, you, me, the bacteria in your gut, the whale in the ocean, is the end result of an unbroken chain of survival and reproduction that stretches back 4 billion years. We all share that same epic ancient history. So if we're not the destination, what does that make us? You know, letting go of that march of progress myth doesn't make us smaller, not at all. I think it does the opposite. It swaps out this false, arrogant sense of superiority for something way more profound, a sense of genuine humility, a feeling of connection, and just pure wonder at this immense, beautiful, and totally undirected tree of life that we're all just lucky enough to be a part of.